Section 1, Ancient History, Chapter 3, The Rise of Valyria and Its Children. As you can see, the arrow pointing to where Valyria is on the map. It's a peninsula across from Slaver's Bay. What brought Valyria into its height was taking down the Empire of Old Gis. Now you can see the arrow pointing to Old Gis. There was 5 great wars between the freehold of Valyria and Old Gis. But during the 5th war, the Valyrians used their dragons to make sure that it would be the last and final war. Pyramids, temples, and homes were all given over to the dragon flame. Many Giscari were slain and others were given to slavery. The Giscari became another part of the new Valyrian Empire. Soon they forgot their own tongue and learned to speak High Valyrian. The Valyrians had no kings, but instead called themselves a freehold, because all citizens who held land had a voice. There might be one head lord chosen to help, but they are elected by the lord's freeholders and only for a limited time. It is rare for Valyria to be held swayed by one freeholding family, but it is not entirely unknown. It is in Barth's Unnatural History where we consider the various legends and origins of dragons and how they came to be controlled by the Valyrians. The Valyrians themselves claimed that the dragons sprang forth as children of the 14 flames. In Qarth, the tales state that there was a second moon, and one day the moon scaled too close to the sun and cracked like an egg, and 1,000,000 dragons poured forth. On the map you can see Old Valyria, Old Gis, and the 3rd arrow is a shy by the shadows. Side note, a shy is where they practice the dark arts in the Shadowlands. It's where the red priests and priestesses come from, aka the Lady Melisandre. In a shy, the tales are many and confused, but they claim that the first dragons came from the shadows. These Ashai histories say that a people so ancient they have no name tamed the dragons in the shadow and brought them to Valyria, teaching the Valyrians their arts on how to tame dragons. Yet if these men in the shadow were the people who tamed dragons first, why did they not conquer Valyria? It seems like the truest tale is the Valyrians saying that the dragons came from the 14 flames. But then again, there are traces of dragons in Westeros long before the Targaryens came and the Rise of Valyria. The history of where the dragons came from aren't really that clear. We do know that the Valyrians are the only ones who have ever been able to tame dragons. The tales of the Valyrians and their beauty is told well, with their hair the palest of silver or gold, and their eyes in the shades of purple not found amongst any people of this world. Daenerys actually has purple eyes in the books, which is why I never understood why the producers, David and Dan, didn't give her purple eyes for the show. But that is beside the point. It is well known and often held proof that the Valyrians are not entirely the same blood as other men. Some maesters say that the breeding of animals in isolation can often show quite remarkable variations in DNA. This is probably the likelier answer to the mystery of the blood of Valyria and the affiliations they had with the dragons. The Valyrians learned one thing from the Giscari, and that was slavery. The burning mountains of the 14 flames were rich with ore, and that's what the Valyrians used to make their weapons. The properties of Valyrian steel are well known, and they're the result of folding iron many times to balance it and removing impurities by the use of spells to give unnatural strength. Those arts are now lost, though the smiths of Qohor claim to still know the magics of reworking Valyrian steel without losing its strength. The Valyrian blades that remain in the world number in the thousands, but in the 7 kingdoms there's only 227 weapons of such steel, some of which have since been lost or disappeared in the histories. The Valyrians used slaves to mine for ore. They grew such a hunger for it that they turned to the neighboring cities of Essos to conquer and use their people as slaves. These cities eventually became the first freeholds of Valyria. These freeholds ruled their own but answered to the dragon lords. All of these free cities were considered Valyria's children, all except for one, the free city of Braavos. Of the 9 free cities, the first is Volantis, then Lys, then Tyrosh, Myr, Pentos, then Braavos, then Lorath, then Norvos, and Qohor. The difference between Braavos and the free cities is that it was made up by the slaves of the free cities. Braavos was hidden for centuries from Valyria. Even after its unveiling, Braavos has continued to be known as the secret city. The Valyrian expansion was great. The names and number of people who fell to Valyria are unknown to us today. What records the Valyrians kept of their conquest were largely destroyed by the Doom. What few records we do have is in the dominion of the freehold. And those who would not be slaves but were unable to withstand the might of Valyria fled. Many have been forgotten, but there was one people that succeeded in their escape from Valyria, and those are the men of the Andals. Thank you for listening. Section 1, Ancient History, Chapter 3, The Rise of Valyria and its Children.